Come, let us explore the exaggeration of spiritual awakening. That's an unusual spelling, would you not agree? So there is this myth that we can orgasm our way to enlightenment. If not through the genitals, then through the heart, that we can just experience this profound tsunami of bliss and surf it straight to enlightenment. But anyone who's ever studied Buddhist Tantra, or anyone who's ever studied and trained in Buddhist jhana work will tell you that's not the case. That you can spend hours and days and weeks and months and years training your body to experience bliss and joy and peace and thoughtlessness. But that does not undermine the original truth of the Four Noble Truths. Number one, we live, let's see, and we're going to go over here and hit A. There are stressors. There are circumstantial stressors and physical stressors and interpersonal stressors and mental stressors. There are fools who would tell you that if you're truly spiritual, you wouldn't see stressors. But the fact is, the first enlightenment factor is mindfulness. And the seventh fold of the eightfold path is mindfulness. Do you see a pattern? According to the Buddha, we need to be honest with ourselves. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And we have evolved to perceive stress as a survival mechanism. Our ancestors who did not, or the ancillary ancestors who did not perceive stress were killed by stress and did not pass on their genetic material. So we have survival instincts. Simply said, we have instincts to shove at some things, pull at other things, and cling to yet other things. Or to be more playful about it, we are wired to, whenever exposed to new phenomena, to viscerally ask ourselves, should I fuck this? Should I feed on this? Should I fight this? Should I flee from this? Should I faint before this? Should I fawn over this? These instincts are wired into us. And they're just tools. And when they're used as tools, they can be helpful. However, when they are our only go-to method of living our life, they make fulfillment an impossibility. In our underbrain, we have two reward mechanisms. A dopamine-oriented reward system that is instinctual-oriented, and a oxytocin-oriented reward system that rewards for cooperation. Fulfillment comes from cooperation. If we are forever in survival mode, we'll have a very unfulfilling life. The freedom that the Buddha offers us is not freedom from the presence of stress, nor is it freedom from the presence of our instincts. Rather, it's freedom from the tyranny of our stressors and the tyranny of our instincts over our choices and utterances and deeds. In other words, we can feel cranky without being cruel. That might sound subtle, but that's the freedom the Buddha offers. And of course, the method to take hold of this freedom is the Buddha's eightfold path, the mastery of which is the enlightenment the Buddha offers and can be accomplished in as little as a week. When the teaching that we can just surf a tsunami of bliss straight to nirvana circumvents all this and paints or infers a picture that when we do achieve this idea of enlightenment, this analog of enlightenment, we will experience no more stress ever again. We will have just go through life in a numb miasma of joy and with wisdom dripping out the corners of our mouth. But that's not what the Buddha offered. We don't need to squander years or decades or lifetimes cultivating bliss and mindlessness. We can master his path quickly and receive the freedom the Buddha has offered to us through word and through archetype. This concludes the opening lesson, and now we switch over to this morning's main practice. It is Luke Skywalker Friday morning. Whoops, I'm obscuring Luke's face. That's just impolite. Let's go here. Drag this bad boy over. There we go. So, together, let us meditate like a Jedi after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. So we turn now to the latest iteration of very easy meditation sadhana, or practice text. Please chant with me. Whatever comes, may all beings let it come. Whatever stays, may all beings let it stay. Whatever goes, may all beings let it go. We've come to the first quarter of this early morning's mindful crease counting meditation. This seems like a perfect time to review the 3 points of Bengali crease counting. The first point is what we do with our right hand. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we can advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply these 12 inhalations by 8 sets, and you've got 96 inhalations. Welcome to the second aspect of Bengali crease counting, that which we do with our left hand. We could keep track of our 8 sets in the following manner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. We now come to the third and final aspect of Bengali crease counting, touching our 2 hands together. So for this first quarter, let's rest the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger upon the tip of our left ring finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the navel region of our mid-abdomen. Each time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, our sympathetic nervous system empowers us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception. You know, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Each time we silently and mentally recite. Okay, so let's continue. So this whole thing, this whole Megillah is known as mindfulness or sati, if you're fancy. Each time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we are wired to physically relax and mentally release what we noticed during our previous inhalation, even though we only labeled it this. This release is known as meditation or samadhi. So this does not mean we're pushing things away. This does not mean we're no longer capable of perceiving. This noticing and releasing are the natural consequences of inhaling and exhaling. If these things are natural phenomena, why do we set time aside to sit on a cushion and meditate? Because for a very, very long time, due to a quirk of evolution, our prefrontal cortex has been competing against our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, but through the cunning use of the silent and mental recitation of these one-syllable words in harmony with our breathing, we're able to interrupt the pattern of that competition and set space for the opposite of competition, which is cooperation. So together, let us practice right now. So let's take a moment to chant a passage from the Song of Enlightenment, composed by Yongjie Xuan Jue, translated by Red Pine, adapted and amplified by yours truly. Please chant with me. Who has no thoughts, who is not born? To be truly not born is to be not born. Ask a tailor's mannequin made of wood. How is that quest for Buddhahood coming? There's a lot of information inferred in this passage. And it's dispelling two ideas. The first idea is that many teachers, some with good intentions, implore their students to overthink everything and to get lost in spiritual sounding philosophy that is horribly unbalanced. The Buddha taught that we are to notice and we are to release in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation. In the Eightfold Path, noticing is called mindfulness and releasing is called meditation. In the 7 enlightenment factors, noticing is called mindfulness and releasing is called tranquility. So both are taught. Centuries after the death of the historical Buddha, the South Indian Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna said it another way. There are two truths, the conventional and the ultimate. We perceive the conventional as we breathe in. We experience the ultimate as we relax into our exhalation. But both are required. Just as a bird requires both its wings to take to the skies, likewise you and I and everybody else cannot just let go. We need to also notice. We cannot just exhale. We need to breathe in too. And yet, people who recite the Heart Sutra every day, multiple times a day, without understanding, without being told, without having it explained to them, are bound to get confused and become infatuated with emptiness, as we see in this part of the verse. In this part of the verse, we see the opposite, where people are taught and trained to not think anymore, which is the opposite that's going from one extreme to the other extreme. And people try to suppress their thoughts and suppress their perceptions, which is another way of repressing our mindfulness, which is another way of repressing our capacity to most fully breathe in. And so there are people who want to be like a wooden Buddha statue or a wooden mannequin in a tailor shop, thinking that somehow their thoughtlessness makes them a Buddha. But the author here is ridiculing that with this verbiage. So let's take a deeper dive. Let's return to our practice text. To keep track of our second quarter, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the heart region of our chest. So let's take a deeper dive into mindfulness. Every time we breathe in, whether we know it or not, we are wired to automatically access the sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This sympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way, to help us notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. But notice what? Notice mind's antics of perception. seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including emoting, intending, reasoning, recalling, and imagining. We are wired to do these things. Perceiving or emoting or intending is not a spiritual failure. Noticing what's going on is how we practice the path. The most efficient way to practice this noticing is as follows. To silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation, thus interrupting the habit of our prefrontal cortex to compete with against our sympathetic nervous system. By interrupting this habit, we set space for these two at last to cooperate. But what do we do with all these things that we've noticed? Every time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we automatically access the parasympathetic nervous system divided between the lower third and the upper third of that same spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system supports both our physical relaxation as well as our mental release of whatever it is that we noticed during our previous inhalation, even though we only labeled it as this. So together, right now, let's practice. Let's chant the 7th verse of the Song of Enlightenment. As you relax into your exhalation, release your grip on the material world. In the midst of nirvana, eat and drink your fill of that which you notice during your inhalation. Practices are ephemeral as we relax into our exhalation. Everything could feel as empty and ungraspable as the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn. This is the Buddha's perfect path of enlightenment. We come now to the third quarter of mindful crease counting meditation. To keep track of this, we could rest the great knuckles at the base of each of our right fingers upon the tip of our corresponding left fingers. And then rest this palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce into the region of our throat that feels like it tightens as we are on the verge of crying. During each inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. Let's try this again. Each time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we are wired to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics. Similarly, each time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we are wired to physically relax and mentally release whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation, even though we only labeled it this. Together, let us chant the 8th verse of the Song of Enlightenment. Speaking with conviction is a sign of a true monk. Those unable to communicate thusly indulge in asking questions. Severing roots is what marks a Buddha. Picking through leaves and twigs is not for me. Okay, now that I've completed my edit, let's explore the meaning of this text. So, the beginning of the quatrain begins with a dichotomy, or a comparison between two. The true monk is one who speaks with conviction and one who cannot, and who merely hides behind questions, thinking that his crypticness makes him somehow profound. We see the same dichotomy reflected here, that we can be an individual who has severed the roots of the tyranny of their survival instincts, or one who is still lost in all the symptoms and exacerbations of their survival instincts. The key, so those who are majoring in minors, so to speak, are fond of rituals and complex contemplations, or just mind stopping. However, what we're taught to do instead is sever the roots. Now, we understand how that works with a tree. You do that with an axe. How do you do that with thoughts? Simple. When we breathe in, we notice what's going on. When we breathe out, we relax. And that's all it takes to interrupt the harmful momentum of decades, no less lifetimes. Now we let us rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce at the crown region of our head. Quick review, if you've just joined me, each time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we are wired to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Each time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we are wired to physically relax and mentally release whatever it is that we noticed during our previous inhalation. Together, let us practice right now, and as always, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, or Buddhist philosophy, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.